our election coverage. Eastern Washington selected Republican Michael Baumgartner to represent them in Congress. And yesterday afternoon, the AP officially called the race. So joining us now in studio is Michael Baumgartner to talk more about his plans as he takes over the seat that's been held by Cathy McMorris Rodgers. So first of all, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So, of course, on election night, Cathy McMorris Rodgers even mentioned, that she's literally passing the baton to you. Does that add any extra pressure on you?
No, we're just really excited, very grateful to be in this position and really ready to get to work.
And so speaking of course, you kind of have to hit the ground running, of course, going into Congress, and especially in a year like this, that's such an overwhelming win for the Republican Party. What will be some of your first agenda items?
Well, I'll be in Washington, D.C. next week to work with the team and meet the other members coming in. And I think really the top priority is really to secure our southern border. I do want to be a representative for everyone here in Eastern Washington, whether you voted for me or not. But I think if we look at the results of Tuesday night, I think there's a clear mandate from the president on down to really get a hold of our southern border. And it matters a lot here in Eastern Washington. There's fentanyl pouring in to our communities. It's causing so much destruction. So that's going to be job one, to address that issue.
And now that's something you also mentioned is kind of reaching across to the other side. And you mentioned that you will be the congressman for all of this district for Eastern Washington, whether or not they voted for you or not. How do you plan on reaching some of those constituents that didn't vote for you?
Well, I work for them. And so their ideas, their concerns, their issues, they matter to me as well, too. I still have a lot of really good contacts from my 8 years in the state Senate with elected Democrats, and we've already talked about a few issues. Mayor Lisa Brown reached out to talk about issues for Spokane. So we work on all those things. I am a strong Republican conservative, but I do realize that the political temperature in our country really needs to come down, and we need to find solutions that work for both Republicans and Democrats, and that while they might be in the opposition, they're not the enemy. So we really do need to unify and work together.
And it seems like your first agenda items with securing the southern border seems to go in hand with President-elect Trump's mission of mass deportations on day one. What do you think about some of the rhetoric that he's been saying in regards to what he wants to do in securing the southern border? Well,
I think President Trump's a good negotiator. I think you have to open up some negotiation space. I think, really the key is that we need to have a legal immigration system. We do have a lot of immigrants. My wife is an immigrant, and a lot of people have family that are immigrants, but you can't have a country where anybody that wants to can walk in. And the drugs that are coming in, the national security issue with potential terrorists coming in, it just has to stop. And I think what the American people said on Tuesday night is they care a lot about that issue. They put President Trump in the White House. They've given Republicans control of all three branches of government. And I think that's the issue number one to solve.
Is there anything else that you'd like to mention? I mean, this is our first time really getting to hear from you since election night that maybe you'd like to say to your constituents.
Just thanks to all the supporters. It's a lot of fun for my family. It's a lot of work. I've gotten more thank you texts and calls than I think I've ever received before. Mike Leach used to be one of my best friends, and I asked him what it was like the day after he won a big game, and he said the worst part about winning a big game is you get more texts and phone calls than you can respond to. So I'm trying to work through those things. But no, we're just excited to get to work. Eastern Washington is the best place in the country and the best country in the world, and I'm really honored to be the representative.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time. We'll be right back with more news headlines here on Up with KREM.